Buying a house can be one of the most stressful experiences. After all, it's one of the biggest purchases most people ever make. Today, we're going to demystify that process for you and break it down so it's not quite so intimidating. First, I'd like to thank our title sponsor, First Access Mortgage. They're Louisiana's first choice mortgage lender for the last 21 years. We are excited to be partnered with them. And for your first home, a vacation home, or an investment property, they're truly your home loan resource. I'd like to introduce a special guest today, our very own Lindsey Whitmer from the Will Frederick team. Thanks for coming on the show today, Lindsay.
Thanks for having me, Will. I'm happy to be here today.
Lindsay and I have known each other for a very long time, and about 5 years ago, we decided to add her to the team. So, Lindsay, why don't you tell us a little bit about how we met, how you got into real estate, and then what your role is on our team?
Yeah, so we met 15 years ago. I saw a sign across the street, and that had your face on it. And I called because we wanted to see the house. And then from there, you showed us the second house you showed us, we ended up buying, and we just kind of stayed in touch. And about, I guess it was like 10 years ago, I started entertaining the idea about getting into real estate. And I think I called you and we talked about it, and it just wasn't the right time for me and my family. My husband and I, we have 3 kids. 5 years ago, we moved here to Laranja. You actually helped us sell the house. That helped us get here. And I just decided that I wanted to try something different. I wanted to turn my scrolling of Realtor and Zillow hobby into more of a career, because I had a passion for wanting to help people and also wanted some flexibility and time to be home with my family. So
yeah, it's a fun career. I mean, it's really a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. So I joined the team about 5 years ago as a buyer's agent, and my role on the team is kind of what it sounds like. I help our buyers through the process of purchasing homes. So I take them through all the way from the very beginning stages to closing on their homes. I help our investors buy new investment properties. I help our commercial clients find commercial properties. So really anything on the buyer, like that's somebody purchasing land, investments, commercial homes, kind of runs through the buying side of the team.
Yeah, and thanks to our many, many clients and our repeat business, we've had to grow and specialize a little bit into our different roles. So Lindsay's been a fantastic help ever since she's been on the team 5 years ago. And so we kind of specialize in different things. So my role is a little bit more listing side focused, where I'm helping sellers figure out the best way to get to market in the most advantageous way, the most competitive way possible. And then Lindsay is helping our buyers work through the process of finding the best home for them, finding the best property for them, and just really help guiding them through that process in a way that I can't do as well, to be quite honest. So we're really kind of beginning to operate in our strengths. It's like anything. If you do it many, many times, you get really, really good at it. And Lindsay's done it hundreds of times on our team, guiding buyers through the process. I mean, and wouldn't you say that? What do you like about that part of it? Why are you a better buyer's agent than a listing agent?
My favorite part about being a buyer's agent is the moment a family walks into a house. I know, like it's just now, like I just know that's their house. And it's funny because I've had people walk into houses and they're like walking through it and like, okay, yeah, we'll put an offer on this one. And I'm like, are you sure you want to put an offer on this
you
one?
You know better than they do.
I just know when they walk in, like, it's just a feeling I get when a family walks into a house and that's the house they're going to buy. I just know it is. And that is my favorite part of that, is seeing their, like, just feeling the energy in the room when they walk into that house that I know that they're going to put an offer on. I almost know it before they do. And then getting to call them and be like, hey, our offer was accepted.
It's really fun.
Yeah, it's just really fun. And that's probably like outside of closing day, because that's the most exciting part when it all finally happens and they get to move in. But that's my favorite part, is just that feeling that I watch them get walking into their home.
So is that all you do? Just show property for our clients?
So I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions is that buyer's agents are just there to open the door, right? And that's all they need us for is to open the door because they don't have the code, they don't have the app on their phone to allow them in the door. But there's so much more that goes into the process. There's so much more organization and planning and parts of the process to buying a house that I think that goes on behind the scenes that buyers don't necessarily realize we do.
Yeah, there's a lot of value that you bring to the table that like you said, kind of floats beneath the surface. I mean, providing a buyer or providing a door open is only a small portion. So I think you can hear Lindsay's passion when it comes to this process and how wonderful it is. Now, what she's not telling you is that her first year in real estate, she was Rookie of the Year for our brokerage, and she's totally been setting the world on fire ever since. So all of our clients, when they get to work with her, half the time they're like, well, we don't need to talk to you anymore. We're fine with Lindsay. Lindsay's doing a great job. And that really makes me feel good because I don't entrust, this honor that our clients give us to just anybody. Like, I don't want it to be somebody that just can go open a door. I want it to somebody who's going to care about them the way I care about them, the way our whole team cares about our clients and works for their best interest, no matter what that is. We've talked ourselves out of sales before. I mean, because if it's not the right thing for the buyer or the seller, then we say, hey, look, maybe this isn't the best thing for you. That's the type of long-term game we like to play. Can you tell me about a time that you talked somebody out of a sale?
So actually,
probably a few of them.
There have been a few, but one in particular, I took a client to go see a house, and this was at the height of the market where things were moving really, really fast, and you had to make a decision really, really fast. And there was a client that wanted me to write an offer on a house for them because there wasn't much in that location in that price range for them. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll write the offer. So I wrote the offer because they were adamant about me writing the offer. I cannot tell you how excited I was when that offer came back rejected because they had gotten a better offer. And when I called to tell the client that the offer had been rejected, that they had gotten a better offer, they breathed a sigh of relief. Like, oh my gosh, she was like, I was up all night not worrying that my offer wouldn't get accepted, but that my offer would. And I was like,
that's when you know,
and that's like,
right,
and I knew that, and I felt that, and I was like, well, good news is we did have a due diligence period so that if it would have gotten accepted, and we really didn't feel like it was the right thing for y'all, we could have gotten out of it. But it was like just that sigh of relief that he breathed on the other end of the phone that was like, oh, I'm so thankful it wasn't accepted.
Yeah. So, we really want to focus on what our clients really need and want. And sometimes the market of the moment, the emotions that you get caught up in, I think that's one of the values we bring as agents, keeping our clients' emotions between the lines, because it's a highly emotional process. Like there's lots of ups and downs, and we see the best in people. We also kind of see the worst in people sometimes, where we have to say, all right, we have to back down. We have to let them, just do their thing. And I have these conversations with clients every now and then. After a sale, you probably get this sometimes. They'll like apologize to you for the way they acted. Do you ever get that?
No.
Oh, that's just me apparently. I do. I get that. We're sorry. We bit your head off about something. I say, listen, that's okay. We understand as a team, and our admin staff does this too. Hey, we understand as a team, you're going through a lot right now. This isn't really who you are. You're temporarily a little bit out the box, so.
Yeah, I think it is important. One of the things that, as agents, when you're helping them through the process, is managing their emotions and not getting caught up in the emotions with them. It's okay. Remember why we're doing this.
Let's keep focused.
Remember, what your goals are. And I think that's why it's so important that we understand what their goals are and why they're moving and why they're making these decisions. Because if we don't understand why and we're just treating it like a transaction,
correct,
we're going to get hyped up into those emotions with them versus us helping them manage those emotions and remembering the bigger picture. Because at the end of the day, some of those small details that come out during the buyer process are not as important as the bigger picture of why they're making this move or why they're doing what they're doing or why they're purchasing this house.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think you can see why there's no one I trust more than Lindsay to help lead people through that buying process, because we are really keyed in on what their bigger goal is. And so we're going to get into some of the actual logistics, because there are some logistical things that need to be, it's not just an emotional process. There is a process that you have to go through. And so we're going to walk through that a little bit to help it be a little bit less intimidating. And Lindsay's got some tips and tricks up her sleeve that she's helped clients with in the past. So we're going to share that with you too. So I thought we would start by just diving into kind of our strange market. What's different about the market right now that people are asking you about?
Yeah, I think what's different about our market right now is we are still experiencing a lower inventory. Mm-hmm. We have this higher interest rate that we haven't seen in the last few years, so that's kind of new.
Today's show sponsor is Norton Accounting Services, real estate tax pro Bob Norton. Bob's goal is to help his clients become financially free using real estate, and that line just gives me shivers every time. Become financially free using real estate. I love that goal. He focuses on real estate investors. He's got clients with properties in 48 states. He's been a valuable resource to me and many other investors. So by low inventory, you're talking about not enough houses?
Not enough houses for sale. Yeah, we don't have enough houses for sale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have a higher interest rates, and then the insurance in South Louisiana right now is kind of difficult to navigate. Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest thing is managing those expectations with our clients, and just kind of preparing them as we start the search for those challenges
and to deal with those realities.
Right.
So is it the wrong time to buy a house right now?
No, I would not say it's the wrong time to buy a house. It's never the wrong time to buy your house if it's what your goal, if you have to, or if there's a goal in mind. And I think that's what's so important is understanding what are our clients' goals, what are they motivated by, what's motivating them to make this move or buy this next investment property, or upscale their commercial business to buy a commercial building. What are their goals? And if their goals, if we can find them something that helps them meet that goal, then it's most definitely the right time.
Yeah.
To buy.
Yeah, because you have these factors like cost, the insurance cost, the interest rate, the cost of borrowing money, the interest rate, the cost of houses is higher than, almost than it's ever been right now. So what are the things that overcome that for a buyer? And are there things that overcome that? And I think the answer you're saying is yes, there are some things that overcome those costs. It just depends on your situation.
Right.
Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, where does someone? Well, let me start with this question. What's the most important thing for buyers usually when they come to you?
I think right now the most important thing for buyers and what buyers are most focused on is their payment. What check are they writing every month?
Yeah.
And a lot of agents will tell buyers, go get pre-approved. What are you pre-approved up to? And while that number is important, that number is not as important as what monthly note are you comfortable paying each month. That's important because that number is going to mean a lot of things. It's going to be different for a lot of people depending on where they're looking. What are property taxes like in the area? What is insurance like in the area?
Right.
Does it require flood insurance?
Yeah.
Because while things like the interest rate's probably going to stay pretty consistent wherever they buy, those things can be different.
Right.
Does it have a newer roof? Does it have an older roof? So things that would factor into the insurance cost. That, when you factor in all of those things, the pre-approval amount really doesn't matter. It matters what their note is going to be.
That's correct.
So what I like to tell my buyers is, while talking with a lender is very important at the very beginning, when you talk with that lender, let's be transparent about where we're comfortable note-wise, and then back that out into a purchase price, because now we can realistically shop.
Yeah. And it's a highly nuanced approach, like you're saying. I mean, that note, that monthly note is much more, complex of a decision because it's the way it's fitting into their bigger budget. It's not just a number out there. Oh, you're pre-qualified for $200,000. That doesn't tell them anything about what they're comfortable paying and is that going to work for my budget.
And what I find is more often than not, we go find that house at $200,000 and we write that contract on $200,000, and then they call the lender to get their disclosures, and they're like, they have sticker shock.
Yeah.
So to avoid that sticker shock or avoid them falling in love with a house that they can't afford, I like to back it out to, if this is the note you can afford, where does that
let's start there
put you
right
on a dollar amount for a house, and let's shop there.
Yeah. Well, because there's nothing worse than you're taking a buyer because of a qualification letter out to see $400,000 houses, and then once they get to the reality of like, oh, this is the house, they write the offer, they get that sticker shock, they back out, and then they decide, oh, my price range is actually $300,000, and they've been falling in love with $400,000 houses. Guess what? Nothing's going to cut it in the $300,000 range, or very rarely will you find something.
Right.
So it almost does them a disservice to set their sights a little bit too high, So yeah, you've seen that happen, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. Well, where does someone start when it comes to buying a home? Like, where do you point them when they come and say, hey, I want to buy?
Yeah, so the first step is to meet with a lender. I usually send them to my favorite lender, Jenna Whitmer with First Access Mortgage.
Yeah.
And meeting with that lender and just making sure that they are able to buy and that now is a good time for them in whatever financial situation they're in.
Yeah.
So I have them meet with a lender first, and then from there we will meet and kind of go over what the buying process looks like.
Yeah.
Properly set those expectations, look at what they are, what type of properties are out there in the price range that they're pre-qualified for, go over what they're looking for, what are some wants, what are some needs, what are some things that are nice to have but don't have to have.
Right.
And from there, we'll get a couple of houses to kind of start looking at.
So why do you put so much pre-work into this? I mean, shouldn't you just go show them some houses and figure it out from there?
No, Will.
That was a trick question.
Yeah. And I think when I started as an agent, I think that's something I've learned. Yeah. Because when I started as an agent, someone would call and say, "Oh, I want to go see this house," and it's like, "Okay, let's go see that house." And what I found is if you don't properly set those expectations on the front end and you don't properly have those conversations, everyone's just kind of spinning their wheels and everyone's kind of wasting their time. You're showing them houses that really don't meet their needs, or you're showing them houses they can't afford. So I think that by taking buyers through this process of truly a deep dive into a pre-qualification, everyone's expectations are properly set, and it just makes for a much smoother process. It is a lot of work on the front end, but it makes for a smoother, more efficient process through the rest of it. And I think what also, like, I'll have buyers that I'll say, look, maybe we shouldn't go see this house. It's a little bit out of your price range, or I don't really think it checks all your boxes. You're like, oh no, I really, really, really want to see it. Okay, let's go see it. We go see it, and they're like, oh, well, it really doesn't check all my boxes. It's one of those moments where it's like you want to be like, well, I told you so. But at the end of the day, I think it's important that we set those expectations that we are creating a relationship and we are helping you along a journey, and we're helping you with the biggest purchase, and we're really good at it because we've done it a lot and we know what we're doing. So trust us, trust our process. Yeah. And we'll get you in that home and we'll help you meet that need.
Yeah, and sometimes you have that buyer that just has to sort of learn it the hard way by themselves. And what often happens is they whether or not they admit it, because they won't always say, oh, yeah, you were right. But then they are realizing, oh, Lindsay told me that already. And she called this shot like before I could see it. And so, oh, wow, maybe she does know what she's talking about. And she really does.
Sometimes you show the house to check it off the list.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes there are houses that some people are like, oh man, I have to see that
it's
house.
a process of elimination.
And it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
let's go see it. And they are like, okay, I had to see it to check it off the list. So I tell people, because they'll be like, I'm so sorry I'm wasting your time. And it's like, no, you're not wasting my time.
Yeah.
So some houses we look at to see if they meet our needs. Some houses we look at to check off the list. But this is the process that we're going to go through to get there. And as long as you follow the process, no one's wasting anyone's time.
Yeah. So I know that you get to do a lot of fun things with buyers and just showing them properties and taking them through the buying process, just really getting involved in their life. Tell me one of the funniest things that's ever happened to you while you're in that home buying process with somebody.
So a couple years ago, there's been quite a few, but one that really stands out.
You could we could write a book probably.
Probably
huh?
so. Yeah. There was one family that I was showing property to a couple years ago, and anytime we got together to look at property, we literally would call it #adventures in real estate, because that's really what it was with this little family. It was always an adventure. And they would always like, oh, I'm sorry, we have to bring our kids. And I'm like, no, bring your kids. Please bring your kids.
Yeah.
It's so important, I feel like, for parents to bring their kids when we go look at houses, because they have to live here with their kids and their family. And I think it's important that they can feel that when they walk into a home. And so on this one particular day, where I think this was the third house we had looked at that day. And the kids were walking around the house and looking at the house, and all of a sudden one of them goes, uh-oh. So we run to the bathroom, and what we find is the bathroom had a bidet, and she had turned the bidet on full steam, and none of us could figure out how to turn it off.
Oh, no.
So water's going everywhere.
Oh,
Kids
wow.
are screaming. We're drenched.
So with toilet water.
with toilet water.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So it was quite the experience. We did finally get the bidet turned off, and we, cleaned up the bathroom.
Worked our way through it, huh?
Called the agent, let him know what had happened, and we both laughed about it. And so I think that's another thing that's super important, is building relationships with other agents.
Oh, yeah. Having a good rapport.
Building good rapport, being respectful, creating partnerships with them, because I think that matters.
That absolutely matters.
When you're a respectful agent and you treat other agents with respect, and you really create those relationships with them, it becomes fun.
Right.
To work together, and those agents look forward to working with you again. You look forward to working with them again.
Yeah.
And I think it creates a better experience for our clients as well.
That's so true. And I've had I've had a lot of feedback from our clients, obviously, saying, oh, we love working with Lindsay. But I've had plenty of feedback too from agents saying, man, Lindsay's great. Whenever I see Lindsay show to our house, or whenever I see a contract come from Lindsay, we're excited to work with y'all. So that's true. And I do think that's a benefit for our clients, because, sometimes you'll get you'll deal with a real estate agent, and no matter how great their client is, you don't know, because you're just dealing with the agent. So and conversely, if we have a client that's kind of a pill or not great to deal with, the other agent never realizes that, because Lindsay is the great representation of that client's best interest by kind of we kind of shave off the rough edges and we present the best situation for that deal. It's all about creating a win-win scenario, right? So what would you say? You get feedback from your buyers, obviously. What would you say people resonate with the most, or what is your magic superpower that people just really seem to appreciate about you?
I think it's the care and the time that I do put in on the front end to set and manage those expectations. Most people don't know what goes into buying a house, and just taking them through the entire process of start to finish, and explaining that from the front end. And then later on, when a stressful situation comes up or something happens and they're like, well, wait. And I can say, well, remember when we sat down and we talked about this may happen. And when this happens, this is how we're going to handle it. So just kind of being very upfront, very transparent. Yeah. Really looking out for what's best for them, being creative with the situation. I mean, I can think of an example where we had a couple that was moving in from out of state, and they really needed to move here before we could close on a house for work and school purposes for their kids. Well, we were able to work out a deal where they were able to rent the house for the month and then until they could sign and close.
Yeah.
In order for them to close on that house, 4 other transactions it was like a 4-deal domino effect.
That's right. I remember that deal. Yeah.
And it was 3 different states. So it was 4 properties closing in 3 different states that all had to happen in order for their house to close. And we were the last domino to fall. So, and that is, again, those relationships, managing relationships. I had to talk to their agent in the other state, as well as the agent that they were buying that had the house listed here. And I had to trust that agent was doing the same thing with the other things. And it closed on time. Like it closed on contract date. So just and that's all about using the right team, having the right team, being transparent, being creative,
good
and
communication.
Communication.
And you're very good at that with the clients.
Truly understanding what the goal is and doing anything in our power to make sure we meet the goal.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, what else would you like to share with our audience today about the process of buying a home and how intimidating it can be and what to do and what not to do? Any other tips or tricks?
It does seem like a very overwhelming process, and that's why you've got to have the right team. You've got to have the right agent.
The right guide.
My best advice is interview multiple agents, talk to multiple agents.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we'd love to be your agent, but it's got to be someone that's
a good fit for you.
That's a good fit for you and what your goals are and your needs are.
Yes.
And then, keep communicating with your agent, keep communicating with us, and let us help you through the process. Because while it is overwhelming and can be intimidating, it's the most fun process. And at the end of the day, you've reached this huge goal and you have this beautiful home that you get to go home and be excited about every day.
Yeah, and we really love being a part of that process for you and your family. So I hope this has helped you feel a little bit more comfortable with the home buying process and to know that you have resources out there that can help guide you through that process. So I hope you've enjoyed all the information that we've shared today. And so if you have any questions about us, feel free to reach out, leave a comment, or you know how to get in touch with us. So we'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you so much for listening today to the Will Frederick Podcast, where we talk about real estate, wealth building, money, and life. And thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.